know, growing up in Chicago was tough. It was really tough. That was, of course, because of the White Sox. The White Sox are a team reputed to play baseball in the city of Chicago. Although when I was a boy, there was little evidence to support that contention. But wait, just a few years ago, the White Sox won their division, they won the American League pennant, they won the World Series. That's true. But to that I say, it was 60 years too late. You know, a boy needs a team he can be proud of. And the White Sox never met that need. It was rumored at one time that the White Sox would trade for Reggie Jackson, Mr. October, but it was never done. And on reflection, it is obvious why. Somebody thought about it and they realized that the White Sox don't play in October.
Yeah.
If you didn't understand that, talk to someone who knows about baseball, I'll tell you. All right. Well, there must be something good. There must be something good around Chicagoland to compensate for the presence of the White Sox. And there is. It's the Indiana sand dunes at the southernmost tip of Lake Michigan. And my only regret is that we went there but once a year. But on that day, or the night before, really, I'd be so excited. I'd be unable to sleep. I'd be getting up and looking out the window for signs of light in the east. I'd be getting up every half hour looking out the window when I saw light in the east. I'd be pounding on my parents' door. It's getting light, it's getting light. It's time to go. It's time to get ready to do it. Got to get ready. For some reason, my parents were not as anxious to go to the dunes as I. And after many years of thinking about it, I have come to realize one reason was before the invention of sunscreen, if I had been at the dunes for a full day, I would have been burnt to a crisp, unrecognizable. But after a while, they would get up and start to get ready to go to the dunes, and then, obviously, I had to go to the basement. Now, let me explain about the basement. That's where all those things are stored that are only used once a year. But it's also like a scary house under the house that small boys don't like to go to because who knows? Who knows what might be down there in the basement just waiting for a small boy? Basement monsters are very hungry. And it is obvious why. Because in the food pyramid of basement monsters, small boys form an important niche. Since the small boys know this, the monsters don't get one very often, and therefore they are very hungry. But if you want to go to the beach, you have to go to the basement. So I went, picked up those things, spending as little time on the bottom step as possible. And then, of course, to get all those things up, like the beach ball, the beach blanket, the beach umbrella, the fire grate that you use on your beach fire, the big enamel coffee pot, the 1-gallon thermos jug lined in cork and painted green. All those things had to be brought up, and they all had to be washed. Because those of you who are not familiar with basements probably don't know that there is a dirt mill in the basement that throws dirt out constantly, and everything in the basement is dirty. They were put away clean, but they're dirty now. So I had to wash those things. When that was done, I got to make the lemonade. Squeezing lemons by hand into the big green thermos jug, adding water and sugar, and stirring with a big enamel spoon. And I'd be stirring with that spoon, stirring and stirring. And my Uncle Charlie would come in and he'd say, "Lemonade, made in the shade, stirred with a rusty spade." That was like the password, the secret word. That meant that we were ready, we could go, we could all pile into my Uncle Charlie's 1948 DeSoto and go to the beach. Imagine that, riding into DeSoto. But it was, of course, only once a year. Well, it must have been 1,000 miles to the beach. It seemed like it. And on a 1,000-mile trip, obviously, you've got to stop. Got to stop. And we stopped at an ice cream shop in Gary, Indiana. where they had the best ice cream cones in the world. We stopped there once a year. And then we went to what we called Miller's Beach. That was not the name of it, I'm sure. But for reasons which are unknown to me, a family named Miller let us change into our bathing suits in their basement. But it was one of those beach basements, you know, that's actually above ground. It has windows and doors, and it had sandy floor. I still remember feeling the grit between my toes from being there in Miller's basement. I probably should have washed them more often. Anyway, then we went to the beach, and we did all those things that you would do at the beach. I don't have to tell you what to do at the beach, but there was one thing we could do there because they had sand dunes. You could climb to the top of the sand dune, then you could lay down and you could roll. You could roll down the sand dune. Oh, that was a lot of fun. Of course, you had to keep your mouth closed and your eyes closed, but I'll tell you, that was really something special. Then my Uncle Charlie and I would go and get firewood. There was some driftwood, but mostly the wood was from the discarded ends of other people's fires that had gone out. Their fires had gone out and the ends were still there. You could pick them up and pick up the charcoal. It made a wonderful fire. We made the fire, put on the fire grate, put on that big enamel coffee pot filled with lake water. Imagine that, drinking lake water. But it was only once a year. Well, those afternoons went so fast. They went so terribly fast. Before I knew it, I'd be sleeping the sleep of the sunburned. I had no idea. I have no idea whatever how I ever got home those nights. All I remember is waking up in the morning and it seemed like all the pleasure of summer had drained away. There was nothing to look forward to. Nothing at all, except the opening of school with regret and the end of the baseball season with relief. Now I want to ask you a question. Why is it that we only do the things we like once a year? Why don't we do them more often? I've been thinking about that for a long time. And I've come to realize the answer to that question is the same as the answer to the question, why do the White Sox always lose? And if you figure that one out, why, let me know.